I am excited and grateful for Theron for kind of getting everything set up tonight. Theron's awesome, and if you don't know who Theron is, Theron does a ton of legwork and wears a lot of hats at our company, and I'm really grateful for him. So, so tonight, I guess first of all, thanks for being here. It's a fun time of year because a lot of you guys just sold and hopefully made some money, and you're looking at what to do with that money that you made. If you haven't worked with us, or if you don't even plan on working with us, hopefully tonight my goal is to cast a vision for what is possible and what you can do young in your life. I believe that you can start creating wealth really young in your life, and we're going to learn how tonight. So tonight I did do this, I think it was actually 2 years ago. I did one of these. Last year we had some other guys come and speak, but so some of you guys have heard me do something like this. Some of it's gonna be repetitive, and there's gonna be some review, but I also want there to be value for some of you guys that have made awesome money and have some money in the bank that are trying to figure out how to go and win in this current market. The market is challenging right now, and I have some opinions on how to win in the current climate. So I'm gonna try towards the end, like the last slide or two, I'm gonna talk about the current market and how you might win like right now. So these are the objectives tonight. So I'm going to tell you my story just briefly in the first couple of minutes, and we'll start with that. And then I'm going to talk about why you should buy real estate. I love real estate. I'm biased, obviously, but I believe it's the best asset that you can invest in, and wipes the floor with most other places that you can invest your money. And so I want to kind of sell you on why that is tonight, and I'll spend some time on that. I'm going to take you through like a step-by-step process on what I would do if I were in your guys' shoes in my 20s and I were trying to figure out how to invest. I guess just like where to start. There's like 5 or 6 steps that I followed to get some money, to learn the right things, to save the money, to invest, and I'm going to talk about those. And then, like I said, I'm going to talk about the current market and some beliefs that I have, and then we can do a Q&A at the end if that would be valuable to you guys. So anyway, my goal mainly tonight is just to add value and help you guys out. So okay, so my story, I went on a mission, came home, I went to BYU, and at BYU I was working and going to school, and it was overwhelming. And I was never the smartest, like book smart. I was never the best student, and so working and going to school for me was a lot. And it's honestly what drove me to do sales. I kind of chose to do sales almost out of desperation because I was just broke and struggling. And so that's why I did my first summer of summer sales. But I, along the way, kind of fell in love with this idea of trading value for money, and that's what sales essentially is. And so I got hooked on sales, and I believe that if you don't know what you're doing yet in your career, you should learn sales skills, because it's a way that in your 20s without a degree you can make a lot more money than you can by working most jobs. So that was my first step, and that's the first kind of big part of my story is I learned how to sell. And then a couple years into that path of doing sales, I had some money put away. My wife and I got married, and I was trying to figure out what we were going to go do with that money. And I grew up with parents that had made really good money, but money was always stressed about in my household growing up. Like it was just always talked about. And as I was getting married, I was thinking a lot about the type of life that I wanted to provide for my family. And I got obsessed with this idea of creating passive income and buying assets young that would like bless my family's life. And I just didn't want to have to worry about money as I got older. So I did a ton of research. I obsessed about just like, what do I do? How do I get money compounding for me? And started to read books and listen to podcasts. I took mentors like out to eat. Like I have stories about just like hitting people up and like buying them lunch, even though they were already like way well off. And landed on this idea that this would be my formula, is sales plus real estate investing equals wealth creation. So I bought into that idea, got married. My wife's here tonight, Jocelyn. I don't know if you've met my wife. She's awesome. But so yeah, we bought into this idea like young. And what we did, I was finishing up school at BYU, and we had probably $70 or $80,000 saved, and we were 24, 25 years old. And this is what we did. So we bought a fourplex. This is in Provo. I was just joking with the Panthers. They're like, "Do we live in the super ghetto neighborhood?" And I'm like, "Yep, I own a building in there." So this is in the Panthers neighborhood right now. So we bought a fourplex. It has 4 units, so it's got basically four rental properties all under one roof. And I'm going to get into the strategy with this tonight, but basically we put 5% down on a $560,000 fourplex. This was 5 years ago. And so we put $30,000, $40,000 down, spent some money on some other things, moved into this unit. So we lived in one of the units. We rented out the other 3 as I was finishing up school. And the numbers, like the high level numbers, were basically our mortgage was $3,200. We were collecting $1,000 from the other 3 units, and so we were living for like a couple $100 a month, and we were paying down our mortgage with other people's money, and there's a lot of power in that. So we got hooked. Like honestly, we did this, and it wasn't like totally perfect right out of the gates, but I saw really quickly, like, dang, this thing's gonna work, and this is what I want to do. Like, I want to stick with that formula that I just highlighted on that last slide. And so we just basically like had conversations. We would stay up all night just talking about how we wanted to just do this and like become millionaires young. And so that's what we did. So we bought this, lived in it for a year, and then we went out and did another summer of sales, bought another place. This one's in Pleasant Grove, Utah. Lived in the basement of this place, rented out the upstairs. Kind of same math as the first one. We lived for a couple $100 because their rents upstairs didn't pay for the whole mortgage, but it paid for a lot of it. And then we moved out of this one, and so we just kept doing this. And over a 5-year period of time, we bought 27 units of rental property and just kept doing it. And at some point we stopped here, and this is where we live. This is in Saratoga Springs. A lot of these are in Utah or Idaho. And that's our story basically, is active income through sales, passive income through real estate. And by the time I turned 30, my wife and I'm 30 now, we had accrued, we had built a net worth of a couple $1 million by buying property young. And so this is what gets me out of bed in the morning now, is helping other people go and do something like this. And this is why I'm passionate about what we do at Point and teaching people how to earn money, really good money young in their life. And then I love like kind of holding people's hands and helping them through this process. And we have a bunch of reps at our company. Some of them I didn't really help at all, that have done this exact thing. So we have a strong track record here of people that are doing this, and it's something that we believe in. David owns a bunch of rental properties, Tanner Dinning, there's a bunch of people here. Carter Newton Northrop has a place that are following this path. And so it's something that I'm passionate about. So I want to talk to you about why you should buy real estate compared to other assets. So, and I know I've been talking a lot, so I want the rest of this to feel kind of like, if you have questions or if you have thoughts or whatever as I'm running through this, feel free to raise your hand or whatever. So the first thing is appreciation. So these are the reasons why you should buy real estate, and I call them the wealth generators. So I guess I'll start with this. In the stock market, when you buy a stock, there's not a lot of wealth generators. How do you make money in the stock market? So someone that invests in a stock, like, how do they go and get a return on the money that they invest? Sell it at percentage. Yeah. So you buy low, sell high, right? You sell higher than what you bought it for, which is basically appreciation. So stocks appreciate over time, and that's how you make money in the stock market. So it's the same as real estate. Real estate appreciates over time. How many of you guys in this room have a parent or a grandparent that's owned their home for like 20 years or 30 years, and they bought their home for some like crazy cheap number. Jocelyn's parents, they've never met. They're like in this same home. Her dad's like total Dave Ramsey and is probably super stressed about all the debt that we have. But they bought their home for $80,000, and it's not like a junky home. It's like, you know, cute house, but it's like, anyway, it's probably worth 400, 500 grand now. So homes appreciate, right? That home appreciated. They did nothing. They just bought the home and waited 20 years, and the home's now worth a bunch more. So in real estate, there is a bunch of types of appreciation, actually. So there's what we just talked about is called natural appreciation. There's another thing called forced appreciation that you can't do in the stock market. In real estate, you can force appreciation. So who can tell me how in real estate you can force a home to appreciate?
Remodel it.
Yep, exactly. So you finish a kitchen, you make it cuter, or a bathroom. And, you know, so like in real estate, literally you could spend $5,000 on a bathroom and it might increase the value of the building by 20,000, right? So you got a really good return on that money that you spent, and you forced appreciation by doing that. You can also buy appreciation. Like in real estate, you might get a super sweet deal and someone wants to sell the property and you get it at a discount, and the home like objectively is worth 500 grand, but you bought it for 400. So I call it like buying equity, and you can do that in real estate. So there's all these cool ways in real estate that a property can appreciate, if that makes sense. Okay, let's now talk about leverage. What is leverage? You can tell me what leverage is.
Loan.
Yeah. So debt. Leverage is just another word for debt. And it's one of my favorite parts about real estate. So again, in the stock market, you can't get a loan to buy a stock. So I'm going to just use some really simple math for you, but let's say David has an amazing summer selling with us and makes $500,000 in a summer, okay? He had an amazing summer and he has $500,000 and he's trying to figure out what he's going to go do with that. And he decides to buy Coca-Cola stock or some publicly traded company, right? And he puts $500,000 in the stock market and he buys a bunch of shares of Coca-Cola, right? And the market does 10%. How much money will David have? Yeah, so $50,000 is the answer. So 500 grand at 10% in a year would be, he'd make 50K, right? So let's say David, instead, he has all this money, but instead he decides to just kind of do what we did with the real estate thing and just use debt, right? Let's say he puts 5% down on a $500,000 home. How much would that be? What's 5% of 500 grand?
25.
Yeah, so it's 25K. He keeps the rest of his money in the bank. He puts 5% down and uses debt, right? The market does 10%. And David still makes 50 grand, right? But in the stock market plan, he had to spend 500 grand to make 50K. In the real estate plan, he spent 25K to make 50K. So one of them truly is a 10% return. The other one is what? It's like a 100% return, right? $25,000 doubled. It's a 100% return. So that's just one example that I hopefully that illustrates the power of debt in real estate. You can get money working a lot quicker. Debt buy down. What does this mean? So in real estate, as a wealth generator, what does debt buy down mean? Yeah. Tim.
Other people are paying your debt for you.
Yeah. So you own a home and other people are basically paying your debt every single month. So when you own a home and you have debt, this is only a wealth generator if you're using debt. So if you own a home in cash, then this wouldn't be a wealth generator for you. So you're losing a wealth generator if you own a home in cash. And this is a powerful one, right? So like using one of these buildings, sorry, as an example, like every time we would pay our mortgage, we're paying it with other people's money. And even if there's not cash flow on top of the mortgage, even if it's just like the rents we get is what the mortgage is, we're making money every month because it's buying down the debt. Does that make sense? Any questions on that so far, on any of these three first wealth generators? Cool. Cash flow, what's cash flow?
The money after you pay your mortgage down.
Yeah. So cash flow is like my favorite part of real estate. It's like, I don't know if you guys have heard of the phrase like mailbox money, or this is passive income. Like cash flow is passive income, right? So this is why I love real estate. Is a stock, again, it appreciates over time, but it doesn't pay you every month. And cash flow is freedom. Like, like what we do, knocking doors is really difficult. It's grindy. You have to move to a different place. Like our job is really hard, right? What's not hard is buying a property and having someone else manage it and collecting rents every month. And that's like true freedom, right? And so I love this. Cash flow is amazing. It sets people free. Like there's a lot of really rich people in the world that don't have a lot of cash flow, and they just have to continue to work and kind of stay on the hamster wheel. So you want cash flow. Like I'm a big believer that that's something that you need in order to achieve peace financially in your life. And then the last one is tax benefits. So there's a lot of really wealthy politicians over the last couple of years, like Trump and Mitt Romney, that have taken a lot of heat for not paying a lot in taxes, but it's all legal. And the reason why is in real estate, it's this crazy thing, but a home, like a property, the land appreciates over time, but the building itself gets older, and the government allows you to depreciate the asset and offset your income with that. So it's like the biggest hustle of all time. Like I don't even understand how it's like too good to be true, but it's real. And this for me has been a huge blessing the last couple of years. As you start to make really good income, you get to take depreciation and offset your income with it. And so not only do you have assets that are like paying you and stuff, you also have these buildings that you're depreciating, so you're paying less in taxes to the government. So it's a pretty powerful thing. So if you own real estate, you get all of these wealth generators. And again, a lot of other investments, let's say you invest in one business, or you invest in the stock market, or a mutual fund or whatever, you're getting, again, one wealth generator. And in real estate, you're getting a bunch. And when you add all of these return, like these all kind of have their own little return to them, you add it all together, when you do the math, that's why most millionaires are made in this country in real estate. And this is why, is because there's so many different paths to making money in real estate. So are you sold yet on buying property? Anyone? Cool. Any questions on any of these? Yeah.
Actually, I do have a question. So, with building property, like, have you ever tried like building like a new property and then trying to keep that?
Good question. No, I haven't. I haven't done any new build stuff. There's power in kind of buying an existing building and looking at what the rents are. It kind of helps me do some research beforehand. But you can do new build stuff. My strategy has been like small multi-unit deals, add some value to them. I like to force equity or force appreciation in real estate that I buy. And when you're doing a new build deal, you're just kind of betting on natural appreciation. So you don't quite have the control that you would when you buy kind of a dumpier building and then like make it cuter, because you can force some appreciation by doing that. Does that make sense? So that's probably why I've been a little bit nervous about doing like new builds. But if you do new builds in the right market and at the right time, you can make a ton of money. So yeah. Anyway, that's a really good question. Any other questions on these wealth generators? Yeah.
My question is, I'm Gage.
Gage, cool.
Like in 2008, there was a house market crisis.
Yes.
So let's say 2024, something like that happens again, what will you do to avoid being upside down
Really
in
good
debt
question.
on all these houses and
Really good.
properties?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. Okay, you guys listen. So Gage's question was, real estate has cycles, right? And so far this sounds kind of too good to be true, right? The market's done well in Utah. And in 2008, 9, and 10, there was a super bad crash that hurt a lot of our country, right? There's a movie about it. It's kind of naughty, but it's called The Big Short. Anyway, if you don't watch it, but it teaches the story. Read the book. Actually, I don't know. Anyway, but your question is super valid. So let me answer that. And I'll kind of use again. I'm gonna use a building or two like as an example of that, if that's okay. So this fourplex, let's say the market. So I bought it for $562, and honestly, like the first couple buildings, they're in a really safe position because it's usually the longer you have a building, the better it gets, the better the numbers get. But I am just going to use a couple examples. So let's say that fourplex, I bought it for $562. It's now probably worth $900,000 or something. It's appreciated a lot. Let's say the market turns and it literally it goes down to $300,000. Like it cuts in thirds and the market just goes to hell, right? That wouldn't change my mortgage because my mortgage is locked for a 30-year term. So my mortgage it's now actually $2,700 because I refinanced it when rates dropped, and that's fixed for 30 years.
Yeah.
So even if the home value is worth $300,000, my rents right now they're $4,800. So $4,800 minus $2,700, like I'm making like $2,000 a month in cash flow on that one building. Even if rents went to, I mean, you guys rent here and you know the rental market.
Yeah.
Even in 2008, 9, and 10, the data says that rents didn't get beat up that poorly. In fact, in a tough market, when people aren't buying homes, what do they need to do?
You need to rent.
They need to rent. So here's the tip, and here's why I sleep at night is if you get debt where you're confident that your rents are going to cover your mortgage, then you're going to be okay because the property's not for sale. Like I'm not selling it, so I don't care a ton unless I'm selling my property what the home is currently valued at.
Right.
I care what my payment is, what my rents are, and how the numbers work monthly. Does that make sense? That's a really good question.
Kind of a follow-up. For most of your, housing complexes that you have bought, has the money that the people that are paying you for renting, for staying inside of that housing complex, has that usually covered your mortgage, or do you usually have to add more on top of it?
Yeah, usually if you do this right, which that's where you get in trouble with Gage's question, is if you're buying property where right out of the gates, you're having to cover a portion. You want your rents to cover your mortgage. You don't want to buy rental properties unless your rents will cover your mortgage. Because then when the market tanks, you can get upside down, and because then if you don't have cash, then you can't pay your mortgage, and then you default, you get foreclosed on, and that's ugly. So as you're buying property, you want your rents to be able to cover your mortgage. And on these, to be honest, the first couple ones I did, they cash flow super well. Like we make a couple $1,000 on those first couple of ones a month, like on top of the mortgage. And some of these more recent ones, like because interest rates have been a little bit higher, the numbers aren't quite as sexy, but they still cover the mortgage.
Right.
There's some months where they don't, it's just because expenses are up a little bit that month. But for the most part, they still cover the mortgage, not by a ton. But usually as time goes on, rents increase, and if rates drop again, then I'll refinance the debt, and the payment will go down again, and then I'll have more margin in between the rent and the mortgage.
Okay. And are most of these homes a 30-year mortgage?
Yeah, most of them.
Okay.
Yep, I have a couple that I did a 15-year, I get balloons, which is probably more complicated than we need to get into, but the interest rate changes after 15 years.
Okay.
But yeah, most of them are 30-year rates. Yeah, Tanner.
Has it ever been hard to find renters to cover the mortgage, or just here in Utah County?
Utah is an amazing rental market, and the economy here is amazing. I'm way bullish on Utah and Idaho and a lot of these I-15 corridor spots. And so no, you list a place, any of these guys that own property, you list a place and it just like, it fills. It's pretty amazing, so. Yeah. Any other questions on this slide? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so this is what I would do. And these are kind of in order, kind of not, because like I would be working on all 4 of these kind of simultaneously, but anyway, I'm going to teach it in order because it's easier. So learn, I would read books. Like I said, when I started to make some money, my mind started to go like, dude, how do I not knock doors forever? How do I get passive income coming in? How do I create freedom? And I just started obsessing about real estate and learning this game. So I read a lot of books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad's an amazing book. Bigger Pockets is an amazing podcast, and their founders have written a lot of really good books that I've read. And then here's my last thought here is learn by doing. So I probably walked through like 20 properties without getting a job offer accepted. And so like find an agent and go and check out properties and ask questions. And even if you look and sound dumb, like just do, and you'll learn. So I would say learn by doing, read books, get educated, earn, find a job that pays well. Like I believe that when you're young, you should go and trade value for money and not time for money. Meaning go find a job that'll pay you for the hustle and the value that you can give, right? And that's why I fell in love with sales, and that's why I love what we do here at Point is, kids go out in the summer and make way more money than they would working an hourly job here, and it quickens their path to being able to participate in all this other stuff, right? If you don't, and if you kind of take the traditional path, you will stay on the sidelines, and you'll stay on the sidelines for a long time. And and that, in my opinion, that sucks. Like it sucks to not be able to participate in deals like this. Like money is made in ownership. Wealth is created in ownership, and you don't get to participate in owning assets unless you go and make, good money and choose the hard path. You have to choose the hard path young, I believe. So go earn money. Like go find a way to make really good money. And I believe summer sales for young kids that don't have a degree yet is the best way possible. Save money, delay gratification. Jocelyn and I were really careful for a lot of years. Like we drove clunky cars. My first couple summers, we had some clunky cars, and we were just really careful with our money. A lot of the reason why people don't invest in real estate is because it's not a get rich quick, and they think that they want to save money, and then they just can't keep it, and they can't stick with a formula. And so they're just not disciplined enough. Like they can't play defense. You have to learn to play offense and defense. Offense being the earning, and then defense being the saving. And then get qualified. Who can tell me, I'm talking a lot, who can tell me some of the ways that you get qualified to buy real estate? What do loan officers or banks look for when it comes to buying, letting you borrow money? Right.
W2 or just your passive income.
Yeah. So income is one. They're going to look, if they're looking for, if you have a W-2 job, they're going to look for the last couple pay stubs. What is the deal if you're 1099? Because we're 1099 here, which is somewhat complicated. So what's the answer on that? Abra put the 2 up. So what's that mean? 2, yeah. Yeah. So they'll take your last 2 years of 1099 income and they'll average it out. So if you made 50K one year and 70K next year, they'll say, cool, you make 60 grand a year, and therefore we'll lend you, or we'll lend you X amount. So income is one. Capital, meaning the cash that you have, which is why saving is so important. You have to have cash in the bank. They're going to look at like your bank statements and see what kind of capital you have just sitting around, so that they know that you have some reserves just in case, if something breaks down, or you need to kind of help pay for the mortgage every month. And then credit is another one. Who has a credit card in the room? if you don't have one, I would get one. And I would just start, like if you have a car payment, put your car payment on your credit card and just pay it every month. That's what we did to start building some credit. And yeah, just pay it off every month with your debit card, and you'll start to build some credit. You need a 700 plus credit score. That's like ideal. Because if you have a 700 plus credit score, you can start making moves and getting really good terms in real estate. So any questions on that or thoughts on anything so far? Okay, and then buy real estate. So there's a lot of different ways you can buy real estate. And that strategy that we used when we were young is called house hacking, which is where you live in one of the units. If I were, because we were married at the time, we needed to do like a 2-unit or a 3-unit or a 4-unit deal. So our first one that we did was 4 units, then we went to a 2-unit. We actually now live in a home and we rent the basement out still because once you start this thing, you can't stop. You're just like, I can't live in my own home. You gotta help me pay my mortgage. So anyway, yeah.
Question on Zoom. When looking for a property, besides the property not cash flowing, is there an immediate red flag that would turn you away from a deal?
Big expenses, like I call it delayed maintenance. Like if someone has just like put off, like a bad roof is really scary. Electrical, which me and Tanner just bought a triplex, and we'll both tell you that electrical problems can cause you a lot of grief.
Plumbing.
Yeah, any big ticket items can hurt, and so I look for that. Bad neighborhoods. David, what else? What do you look for?
I don't know, I would just always do an inspection.
Yeah.
An inspection done.
Yes. Tanner and I bought a triplex and we didn't do an inspection, and we overpaid for some stuff. Not doing an inspection is a boo-boo, and we made that mistake, which is great. So yeah, those are some good ideas to hopefully help. But house hacking is an awesome strategy. If I were single, and if I were some of you guys that was like, if you're single and you have some money and you can get qualified, this market has gotten really competitive for those multifamily deals, mainly because people like me are looking all the time to buy them. And there's a professor at BYU named Corbin Church that teaches this every semester to 500 kids. And I was one of them. And there's a bunch of us that are like disciples of his that are scooping up all these all the time. So what I'm getting at is, if I were single, I would look in the non-competitive. I'd go get a townhome, like a good deal on a townhome, and I would rent out the bedrooms. I would rent out the other bedrooms instead of doing like a duplex or a triplex or a fourplex, or just a house. Like if you can go buy a house, rent out the other bedrooms, it'll probably be less competitive than some of the duplexes and fourplexes and stuff. So house hacking is that's what it's called if you live in it. If you don't live in it, then it's just a rental property, and the con is that you have to put more money down because it's an investment loan. And so you have to put 25% down of whatever you pay for it. So like that fourplex, for example, if we didn't live in this building and we bought it for $562,000, if we didn't live in it, we would have had to put 25% down, which is a ton of money. Even back then, that's a ton of money, right? Like 562 times 0.25 is what? It's a lot. 562 times 0.25 would have been $140,000. It's a lot of money. But what was our down payment? 562 times 0.05 was like 30K, right? 562 times 0.05 was 28K. So it's what allowed us to pick up units a lot quicker. And yes, there's more debt, right? You're borrowing more money to do that. But again, the answer to that is, if the numbers work, then load up the debt. Like, I know that Dave Ramsey doesn't teach that, but there is such a thing as good debt. And like, debt has blessed our life in a huge way, and any real estate investor would tell you that. So Okay, any other questions on any of those first couple deals? Yeah,
Is there any good books on saving?
on saving. The Millionaire Next Door is a good book on saving. You'll feel kind of like a crazy person after that book because he's just like super, like makes you feel guilty. It's like the financial version of The Miracle of Forgiveness. You know, it's like that whole thing.
Every little
It's
thing.
like you spent money on the Taco Bell. So that's one. I don't know.
Set for Life.
Set for Life.
Set for Life is a bigger pocket book.
Love that. Push up for that. Oh, yeah. I learned from him. Yeah. Just watch. Yeah, the best way to be interested in becoming a saver is to look at people that are bored, like that are that haven't been able to figure it out. You know, like they're aging and they're still stressed about money, and learn from their bad example and do differently than what they are doing. Like honestly, yeah.
What's the podcast you mentioned earlier?
It's called Bigger Pockets. Oh, I'm sorry. It's out there. Bigger Pockets is what it's called. Yeah, there's a lot of podcasts that I listen to that are awesome in real estate, but that's probably that's like the biggest real estate podcast, Bigger Pockets. And there's some episodes that are like super basic, like, you know, they literally teach you like, hey, you own nothing, you know nothing, where do you start, kind of thing. So it can be really helpful.
Bigger Pockets has a real estate investing podcast where they just have go-to real estate investors and talk about how they got started.
Nice. Yeah.
So for house hacking, I mean, is there a point like where you can move out of the house? You know?
Yeah, good question. So the rule is 1 year. So you're supposed to live in it. The bank wants you to live in that house for 1 year, and then you can legally move on to the next one.
Okay, and then when you move on to the next one, is the interest rate going to be?
No, it stays the same. That's the whole beauty of it, is the debt that you locked, calling it an owner-occupied loan. It's an owner-occupied loan forever. So like that fourplex and a couple of the other ones that we did that on, even though we don't live there anymore, like that's the debt that we get for the whole term of it.
Okay, and then the down payment for the next home, if you house hack it, is it not going to be as good of a percentage as the first?
You can
one?
still do it. Yeah, they don't look at, yeah. They have no idea. When you go and apply for a new loan, they have no idea what else you own and what else you've done. Here's another thing is when you get aggressive, which we got, there was a point there where we were trying to buy like a couple in a year. Like you can actually, if you tell a story of like why you need to move, you can move quicker than a year. We were like, yeah, we have a kid, our place sucks, we need another house. And then they were like, sure, here's another loan. So we did that 1 year. So
just have a kid.
yeah, have a kid, and yeah, kids help with the big life change. Need a bigger house. So, Bronson, what's up, bro? Okay, and then the last step is repeat. So keep doing this. Like your first deal that you do, you might hate at first. Like it might stress you out. And it's real estate takes time. Like the good deals turn into great deals. The bad deals turn into good deals. Like as time goes on, deals will get better, but you have to stick with that formula. Like, and I know that it can get emotional. You can get frustrated, and a lot of people buy one deal and then they never do another one. But you have to stick with the formula and continue. And so that's probably the best thing that we did is we just said, okay, we have a 5-year plan. We're going to stay the course and we're going to just keep doing this. And that was big for us. So any questions on any of these steps? Yeah.
What do you use to look for properties mainly?
As far as like the numbers and stuff or applications?
Like to find the property.
Oh, to find them, yeah. So there's an app called the Utah Real Estate app. It's like a blue app. And I like it a lot better than Zillow. I think it's more accurate, it's more user-friendly. It's a really good app for Utah. Out of the state, Zillow is fine. And, yeah, I think that would probably be my answer to that. Any other thoughts on that, Tanner?
Yeah, you can get in touch with a realtor, real estate agent, and he will send you listings for free. You don't have to pay him a dime.
To your email.
To your email.
Yeah.
So like every single morning, I'm looking at like 5 or 6, for sales, and I'm writing numbers just for practice and see if I can find a good deal. So that's honestly the best way to get in touch with a real estate agent and just have them send you deals for free.
Yeah, I think they call it like hot sheets. And so you find an agent and say, hey, can I get on your hot sheets list? And they'll send you like a couple that hit the market, and you can just go and practice the numbers. I think that's a really good idea. What was your name?
Christian.
Christian. Yeah.
You use the same like Utah real estate to list, like when you want renters?
Yeah, your buyer will see it on Utah Real Estate, but they'll also see it on Zillow. So it hits something called the MLS. When a property hits the MLS, it'll go to multiple, like, the Utah Real Estate thing is just like it's like a app that plugs into the MLS, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
So if you have an agent, they will know where to list it, and then it'll be accessible on Zillow, on Utah Real Estate, and all those apps.
Are you talking about finding renters or selling?
finding
So
renters.
where do you,
finding renters,
where do you
yeah.
find, how do you list your rentals?
Yeah, so Facebook Marketplace is really good.
Oh, okay.
Rentler,
KSL?
KSL, yeah. Those are probably the main.
What did you mainly use for
Facebook
getting renters?
Marketplace.
Really?
Yeah, it blows up, especially here locally. Like, you list it on Facebook Marketplace, and I just use Messenger, that Messenger app, and people, it's pretty nice. Just message back and forth and answer questions and stuff. So, and you'll know right away if you've like overlisted something or underlisted it.
Yeah.
Like if you underlist something, it's like your mailbox is 100. Yeah. So, any other questions? Yeah, awesome.
You know, like a good place to go, like say you want to buy like a house or rent out like some rooms.
Yeah.
I know there's like different zoning laws of renting, especially in Provo.
Mhm.
Do you have a place you go to like find those kind of laws?
Just call a city. Call the city office and say, what are your rules? Most of them in Utah are similar. So there's some rules in Utah. Usually you can't rent. It is a little bit city dependent, but you can't rent to like, I think it's more than 3 unrelated people. There's some cities that are a little bit more lenient than others. Provo is kind of strict. I have a place in Pleasant Grove, and it's just like I kind of fill it and get aggressive because they just don't care that much. So it's city to city. You can call and ask for their zoning, but there are some zones that don't allow Airbnb. There's some zones, like I had an Airbnb in Provo. It got shut down last year. The city found out, and I had to turn it back into a long-term rental. Like, zoning can be frustrating, but you gotta learn it. You gotta know zoning if you want to have success in real estate. Yeah, Steve.
What tools do you use to draw up like the rental agreements?
What's that thing called? What's the?
I use DocuSign.
Oh yeah, DocuSign. Josh, what's our email thing? Dotloop. Yeah. Yep. Any other questions on this? Yeah.
So let's say you had enough money to just like pay off
Yeah.
a property,
Yes.
but you want to like use the debt
Yeah.
feature, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So could you just get the debt and then instantly pay it off and then have whatever?
There wouldn't be any advantages to that.
Okay.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any advantages to that. If you're gonna buy a home in cash, I would just buy it in cash. Because yeah, there's actually fees that you'll pay out of the gates that will increase your costs. So I wouldn't do that. But debt, I could talk for a long time about debt, but here's my main thought on debt is like, there's actually a book, Adam, here's another cool book, it's called The Psychology of Money. And one of the coolest things he says in that book is everyone's different with money, and some people are reasonable and some people are rational. Rational being like, objectively, this is what you should do. And honestly, objectively, people should borrow money in rental property real estate, like 100%. You get way better returns by not buying stuff in cash. But reasonable, like some people sleep way better at night doing the reasonable thing for them. And so for some people, like it's 100% the right thing to like pay off your debts and to not have any debt, And so like, anyway, that's kind of where I stand on the whole. And I sleep at night again because of the math that I did for Gage on that question is like, dude, even if hell like breaks loose, like I still will cover my mortgages and it'll be fine, you know? So 1 or 2 more questions and then I'll go to this last slide. Yeah.
What would you say is like the minimum amount of money like that you could possibly start with to like start doing this?
To get going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously it depends on like what you're renting and whatnot.
Yeah. So from a income standpoint, I think someone probably needs to be making 50 to 70K a year for in order to qualify. And then you gotta have the credit and then the capital to get the down payment. You know, the math's somewhat straightforward. Like if you go buy a townhome right now for 400 grand, you would need to come up with 5% of that, right? If you lived in it. So what's that, 20K? And then you probably want to have some in reserves just in case things break down and stuff. So I would say 30 to 40K. If you have 30 to 40K, you could probably get in the game. You're going to be a little bit stressing and it's going to be a little bit tight, but like you could get in the game. We had 70 to 80 grand saved and we spent half that on a down payment and then like another 10 grand on a roof. And then when that summer rolled around, I was like, I'm ready to go work. Like, we're broke again. Like, which is, you want to go broke. Like that's part of what wealthy people do is they go broke in the right way. If that makes sense. I actually am a Grant Cardone fan and he talks about this a lot, but like make awesome money and then go broke every year in the right way. Not by buying dumb things, but by buying assets and then feel poor and then go work hard again. And you just do that over and over and over again.
Does buying like a new Ford Bronco, is that like?
I've been saying this about Parker. Parker did a real estate deal last year with me though. So he did a real estate deal before he bought the Bronco.
But he's got to go broke now.
And now he needs to go
so he can get
went
rich.
Broke. No, he's not broke. He's about to get paid again. And I'm going to waterboard him until he qualifies for rental property. So. Really good question, Noah. On blast. All right. Okay, last slide. Current market. So how to win. What time is it? Okay. The market's tough right now. Like it is a tough market right now. Interest rates are high, really high. And I read something the other day that the housing market right now has not been this unaffordable for 37 years. So it's like it's really unaffordable because prices are still relatively high and interest rates are really high. And so what that's created is what I call a holding pattern, meaning no one wants to sell their property because their interest rates are so low, right? Like I would never sell one of my rentals right now, like especially those first couple ones that I have a 2 or 3% interest rate on and like not sell it for a very awesome number. Like that would be idiotic, you know? Because my mortgage actually is like an asset to me because it's so low because of the interest rate. So I listened to an amazing podcast the other day that talked about this guy, a really smart guy, was on this podcast, and the person that was asking questions said, do you see a real estate crash coming anytime soon? He said, absolutely not. And he said, let me explain why. He said, there's 140 units of real estate in America, 140 units. 25% of those are at a 3% interest rate or lower. And then there's another big chunk that's at a 4% or lower. And then there's another massive chunk that owns their property in cash. So like 80% of our market right now has a really low interest rate and their payment's actually really affordable because during COVID interest rates dropped so much. So a lot of people actually, even though the current market says housing is really unaffordable, people that own a home right now, it's like never been more affordable. Like their mortgages are really affordable. So it's created this holding pattern. And I side with that guy and his opinions, and I don't believe, like for a housing crash to happen, buyers and homeowners have to be in distress. And that's what happened in 2008 and 9 and 10 is homeowners were in distress. Like they couldn't pay their mortgages. And that's why there was a mortgage crisis. A ton of people defaulted, right? That's not happening right now. And he said in this episode, there's actually never been a lower default like rate than what we have right now. So I don't believe a housing crash is coming. That's my opinion. I do not have a crystal ball, and I don't want you to like take, put that in pen, but that's my opinion. Here's just some simple math. I'm a big believer that time in the market beats timing the market. And what that means is if you can get the numbers to pencil and if you can get your mortgage covered by the rent, you should buy property, and you should always buy property. David, what was the quote that you shared with me on the phone the other day when I called you? It's like this, but in different words.
Don't wait to buy real estate and wait.
Yeah. So I believe like this quote and that one, I believe in that idea that you buy real estate and you wait. And so here is some numbers that are just kind of interesting. $600,000 home at a 7.5% interest rate, that's the mortgage. What will happen if interest rates drop? What will happen to home prices? They'll come up, right? So there's like millions of people right now sitting on the sidelines waiting for what? They're waiting for interest rates to drop. And so what's going to happen when interest rates drop? Then the market gets competitive again. Then home prices go back up. So everyone always wants to point at like, oh, what's wrong with the market? Things are tough right now. There's no deals out there. It is true. It is a tough market. It's tough. It's the toughest market I've ever been in. But like, I do believe in this idea that, the math speaks for itself. A $700,000 mortgage at a 6% interest rate is the same number every month. Does that make sense? That principle to you guys? So anyway, it's tough right now to get deals to pencil. Sellers are not very like humble yet, and they're not willing to lower their number. But I do believe that they have to if interest rates are going to kind of keep creeping, especially the ones that need to, right? Especially the ones that can't pay their mortgage, because there's a percentage of people that can't. Here's another idea. I would go research seller financing. A lot of people are using seller financing right now as a way to get into the market. Seller financing is basically when the seller of the home plays the bank, and so they're like, and they might kind of do an interest rate that's not like a 2 or 3, but it might be like better than what the rates are at. So they might say, okay, cool, buy my home. I want a big down payment of 100 to 200 grand, and then I will. You can make payments to me at 5% interest, and they play the bank. The only problem with that, or the scary thing with that, is that usually rates they balloon at like 5 to 10 years usually, meaning it's not a 30-year loan like the bank will give you. It's a 5 to 10, and that's what sellers will usually give you if they do a seller finance deal. So it's a little bit scary because if rates continue to creep up, then in a couple of years you're in a little bit of a scary spot. But there are really good deals out there that are seller financing. I haven't done one, and I'm not a professional with seller financing. But okay, last one is lean on professionals. So there are groups out there that they do this full time, like way more than I do, right? They literally like are smart nerds that study real estate, and they know this crap way better than me. And they do big deals, and some of them actually you can get into without being qualified. Like you don't have to have the 2 years of income. You can write a check, trust the professionals, and in tough markets, I believe that that might be a good strategy for a lot of people, is to give money to a professional, let them go buy real estate with your money. That's what their specialty is, and let them go and get money working hard for you. So I actually invited Bronson. Bronson just walked in. Bronson played football for BYU, biggest man in the room. He's a stud. But Bronson works with the Harris Investment Group, and on the 25th of October, which just happens to be payday for our point reps, they're going to come, the owner of their business is going to come and speak to us about a deal that they're raising money for. And I think it's a good fit for people that can't qualify for real estate, but that have a bunch of cash lying around. Because again, I believe in this principle of time in the market it beats timing the market. And then you get to lean on professionals that have a track record and know what they're doing. So if you have questions about that, Bronson will hang around after, and you can ask him some questions. I will hang around, and you can one-on-one. I can kind of answer any questions you have as well. But these are like the 3 ideas that I had about this market. So again, just to kind of recap on those, it's there are deals out there still. I would err on the side of buying property because I believe at some point interest rates are going to kind of go back to a 5 or a 6, and you can refinance your properties. Learn about seller financing. I found that can be good in this current market. If you're not willing to go and spend a bunch of time and do research and get your confidence right, that's why I was able to go buy properties, and a lot of my friends were like sitting on the sidelines. I went and like did it. And if you're not willing to do that, then I would invest with smart people, which is also smart, right? So anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Any questions on this slide? Or just any questions at all? Q&A now.
What is refinancing right now?
Yeah, so refinancing, what it basically is wherever interest rates are at that current point, you get to restructure your debt. So let's say you buy right now and you buy a home for this number, $600,000 at a 7.5% interest rate, because that's what rates are at basically now. But let's say in a year or two, rates come back down and they're at like a 5 or a 4.5 or something. And there's a pretty good spread between like what your current rate is and what the current interest rates are at. You can do something called a refinance, and you basically take your debt, which in this case, let's say, what's 5% of 600 grand? That's 30K. So you have 570K in debt on that property. So you say, okay, bank, I like the new debt that I could go get. I want to get rid of my old debt. And you basically say, I want to restructure that debt and take the 570K, and I'd like a lower interest rate, and they'll make your other one go away. That's like the simplest way I can put it. Does that make sense? So it's a powerful way to, and you pay for it. Like there's some cost that they'll charge up front to pay for it, but you can bake a lot of that into the 30-year loan, and so you don't feel it. It's like a no-brainer. It's amazing. When rates dropped to a 3, we had I think 3 properties at that point. We went back to the bank and refinanced everything, and it dropped all of our payments by like $500 to $1,000, and all that went to cash flow. So it's like we gave ourselves like a $2,000 a month pay raise just because our payments got better. If that makes sense. Yeah.
How often will the bank offer that to refinance?
It's you choose, as you're the customer, and they will always sell you a refinance deal because it's a win for them.
Gotcha.
Because again, they make some money long term on that deal. They generate fees and stuff to make sure that it's like a benefit to them to refinance. So they'll always let you do it, I think.
Once a year.
Oh, really? Once a year? Yeah. So yeah, you can refinance pretty dang often. You don't want to do it like let's say it dropped from a 7.5 to a 7, because there's fees and stuff. Like the math has to make sense, and it doesn't always make sense. There needs to be like a delta between like what it's at and like the two numbers, a big enough one, or else it could be like kind of a dumb thing. So yeah.
Would you ever refinance and use some of like the money you get from refinance to put another down payment on a home?
Yeah, that's called a cash out refinance. And yes, we have done that. Those can be, so let's say your property appreciates a bunch. So like our fourplex, it's appreciated now, it's worth 900 grand. If I were really aggressive, which I'm medium aggressive, but like I'm not like that, there's people out there that are just like, dude, they'll borrow so much money, and sometimes it works out for them, right? But like 900 grand, our debt in it is 500 grand, so we have a lot of equity in that building, 400 grand. There are people that will say, I'm going to pull out 200 of that equity and raise my payment on it. So my payment might go from, which I would not do right now, by the way, because it'll make my 3% interest rate go to a 7.5, which would be idiotic. But yes, there's cases where that totally makes sense to pull cash out and go buy another deal, and maybe your payment goes up a couple $100, but then it got you into another deal. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. Has anyone done a cash out refinance in here? Yeah, they can be really good, powerful, cool. That's what's so cool about real estate is you can borrow against it. Like, again, it's stock. You have $500,000 in the stock market. You can't go like leverage against it and pull or like borrow against a portion of your equity or whatever. Anyway, it's awesome. Any other questions? Maybe one or two more questions? Yeah.
I was curious how it works when you, like, multiple people like you and Tanner are going on property.
Yeah.
Would that be like solely an investment property? Like, would you have to pay that 25%? Or like if one of you lived
You
in
could
it
do
for a year?
I've thought about with my siblings, like Kyle and stuff, convincing him to do an owner occupied so I could get back on the owner occupied train and like partner with him
Yeah.
on deals. Like I've thought about that. And that you could do that. So you don't have to put 25% down on a deal like that because Kyle would be one of the partners and he would be moving into it.
Okay.
But like deals that I have partners on that Ogden one, and then the Idaho. We have a 13-plex in Idaho that a couple people at Point have partnered with us on, and there's some complexities there. You have to create like an operating agreement and an LLC, and it's just like a business, and the rents pay into that, and you all have your share of whatever that is. Yep.
Okay.
So 50-50 or 70-30 or whatever you end up doing with your equity pool.
Okay.
So, yeah, good question. Any other questions? Cool. Well, yeah, thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Hopefully this has been valuable. This is, again, we're really passionate. All of our leaders here are passionate about building people and helping others go and get the snowball rolling in life. And I guess I'll just leave you with this. Like when you start to have a family and build that out, you start to get a lot more serious about your future. At least that's been the case for me. And I look at my little boy and just like his future and our future kids, and it's my insurance plan. Like I want my family to be okay if I get hit by a car, and it's scary to me to think that like a lot of people they don't have something like that set up. And even like there's life insurance policies and stuff out there, but that money can come and go. These buildings that I have, they will stand and those tenants will pay rent, and it'll be a blessing for my family. So it provides freedom, but you have to, everyone wants passive income. Everyone wants to do these things, but they don't want to go do the hard work. And the hard work for me was knocking doors and moving my family, my wife across the country a bunch of years and putting in the work. And you need to go find whatever that is for you. I think that we'd love for it to be here with us, but you need to go find what that is and start working hard young, and don't wait until you're, older to start making decisions like this. So anyway, thanks for coming, and I appreciate you guys.